Hello, my name is Layane elamine. The human being first finds itself in a general horizon called the world, and only secondarily deals with what is within the world, that is self, things, and people. It is by dealing and dwelling into the world that the human being is able to understand himself and everything around him, and will eventually build a powerful way of thinking to deal with what will face him. The human being then tries to prove his presence by leaving traces behind him, such as buildings, discoveries, inventions, etc. And the experimentation that goes with building traces is what makes us dwell into this world and have a way to feel time and its beauty, and at the end realize that we are being towards death, or simply being. In my Rig 4 model, my goal was to embody the quote in the most peaceful way, where I represent two pathways coming from the unknown, leading to an end, and added an opening at the bottom of the cylinder as a way of escape. Here are the studies that I went through. From the beginning, I had the same working concept, but slowly worked on emphasizing my idea while working more on the aesthetics of the model and discovering the material more while going from a step to another. The rig N is a kinetic, more complex representation of the idea of being in the world. It is a partial abstraction of a bigger system, built with only the essential details. In it, I wanted to visualize the idea of discovering the world, but at the same time needing a break from what is around us and returning to our cocoon when needed. And coming back to time, the action of going in and out is connected to a pendulum that for me represents time, and that's because we as humans can turn time into our best friend and benefit from it as a way to discover and create, or our enemy by making us live behind our cover and not be able to achieve anything at all, and thus not be able to dwell in our world. And here is a study of my kinetic model that made me understand the beginning point of work in a much simpler way of movement. Jumping to the group's context analysis, one of the ideas that we discussed is the Dahlia Shore, a place where we can get to know different types of fauna and flora. One of them are seals that are becoming now endangered species because of hunters. Here we can see the effect of an explosion, a hand of treachery that messed a face and stole a beauty. While this shows the silos opening their eyes, shocked by what happened after the August 4th explosion. The amount of sand in this picture shows loneliness in a way or another. It represents the beginning of something, but in fact, it is the after effect of an explosion, which makes us directly think of returning to the beginning stage after reaching a very important one. It shows the damage and the mess due to what happened after having a very strong structure that got destroyed in less than a second. This picture shows further damage since we can see more details, and the presence of the dog passing by shows how empty this place has become. It simply shows a very sad, damaged end of something. This picture shows void, emptiness, loneliness. This picture is a representation of taking a part of something and never know if it's going to heal or not. In the technical drawing, I chose the axis of the silos as my main axis, and from it generated parallel and perpendicular pathways. Now coming to the array model, I wanted to give the visitor a feeling of being overwhelmed by at first the width of the walkway, and second by the height of the walls on the west and south parts of the site, and then arrive in front of the silos facing north, where I shifted the horizon and created a new focus. There the human being is able to find himself after being awakened that we are in control in this general horizon, which is the world. On here, not only we are able to walk, but the rooms created allow for resting and self-reflection. Now we have the final model, the mechanism, where I kept the same idea of the rig N, where a pendulum creates a movement related to it going back and forth. The mechanism was placed right in the middle of the silos, since it is the most convenient placement for me to show our presence and its relation with time. And my goal behind putting the cylinder in the middle of the sea is to engrave on it the names of the martyrs that passed away in the explosion. The observational render is a stage where we perceive the details in different materials and try to recreate them. And some parts of the rock and tree were left non finito to draw focus on the most important and interesting parts of the object rather than all of it.
So this is my model where we can see the mechanism integrated between the silos. Now to explain the movement a little bit. We have the pendulum that when I activate, its base starts moving because of the weight right here. And this back and forth movement that's happening moves a cylinder that is in the sea and, as mentioned, holds the names of the martyrs that passed away on the August 4th explosion. Now let's take a second look here on the mechanism. This mechanism needs an exterior force that should constantly move it, or it will stop after a while because of the friction. Thank you.